Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing our reading of the Srimad Bhagavatam. We're on Canto 3. We're up to Chapter 20, Conversation between Maitreya and Vidura, and thankfully so. We're going to take up at, where's our official tracker? 18. Okay. First of all, Brahma created from his shadow the coverings of ignorance of all conditioned souls. They are 5 in number and are called Tamishra, Andatamishra, Tamas, Moha, and Mahamoha. The conditioned souls or living entities who come to the material world to enjoy sense gratification are covered in the beginning by 5 different conditions. The first condition is a covering of Tamisra, or anger. Constitutionally, each and every living entity has minute independence. It is misuse of that minute independence for the conditioned soul to think that he can also enjoy like the Supreme Lord, or to think, why shall I not be a free enjoyer like the Supreme Lord? This forgetfulness of his constitutional position is due to anger or envy. The living entity, being eternally a part and parcel servitor of the Supreme Lord, can never by constitution be an equal enjoyer with the Lord. When he forgets this, however, and tries to be one with him, his condition is called Tamisra. Even in the field of spiritual realization, this Tamisra mentality of the living entity is hard to overcome. In trying to get out of the entanglement of material life, there are many who want to be one with the Supreme. Even in their transcendental activities, this lower grade mentality of Tamisra continues. Andatamisra involves considering death to be the ultimate end. The atheists generally think that the body is the self and that everything is therefore ended with the end of the body. Thus they want to enjoy material life as far as possible during the existence of the body. Their theory is, as long as you live, you should live prosperously. Never mind whether you commit all kinds of sins. You must eat sumptuously, beg, borrow, and steal. Pardon me? As long as you live, you should live prosperously. Never mind whether you commit all kinds of so-called sins. You must eat sumptuously, beg, borrow, and steal. And if you think that by stealing and borrowing you are being entangled in sinful activities for which you will have to pay, then just forget that misconception, because after death everything is finished. No one is responsible for anything he does during his life. And abbreviated for modern group, YOLO. This atheistic conception of life is killing human civilization, for it is without knowledge of the continuation of eternal life. This andatamisra ignorance is due to tamas. The condition of not knowing anything about the spirit souls called tamas. This material world is also generally called tamas because 99% of its living entities are ignorant of their identity as soul. Almost everyone is thinking that he is this body. He has no information of the spirit soul. Guided by this misconception, one always thinks, this is my body, and anything in relationship with this body is mine. For such misguided living entities, sex life is the background of material existence. Actually, the conditioned souls in ignorance in this material world are simply guided by sex life. And as soon as they get the opportunity for sex life, they become attached to so-called home, motherland, children, wealth, and opulence. As these attachments increase, moha, or the illusion of the bodily concept of life, also increases. Thus the idea that I am this body and everything belonging to this body is mine also increases. And as the whole world is put into moha, sectarian societies, families, and nationalities are created, and they fight with one another. Mahamoha means to be mad after material enjoyment, especially in this age of Kali. Everyone is overwhelmed by the madness to accumulate paraphernalia for material enjoyment. These definitions are very nicely given in Vishnu Purana, wherein it is said, Tamo viviko moha syad anta karana vibrama maha mohastu vigneyo gramya bhoga sukha shana maranam yanda tamisram krori uchite avidya pancha parvaisha pradhurbhuta mahatmanaha. All the above. So it's a summarization of the. I'm just curious how much discussion it takes to cook stuff. It just seems like a lot of discussion to cook something. I mean, like a lot. Out of disgust, Brahma threw off the body of ignorance, and taking this opportunity, Yakshas and Rakshasas sprang for possession of the body, which continued to exist in the form of night. Night is the source of hunger and thirst. Overpowered by hunger and thirst, they ran to devour Brahma from all sides and cried, "Spare him not, eat him up." The representatives of the Yakshas and Rakshasas still exist in some countries of the world. It is understood that such uncivilized men take pleasure in killing their own grandfathers and holding a quote-unquote love feast by roasting the bodies. Brahma, the head of the demigods, full of anxiety, asked them, "Do not eat me, but protect me. You are born of me and have become my sons. Therefore, you are the Yakshas and Rakshasas." Purport: the demons who were born from the body of Brahma were called Yakshas and Rakshasas, because some of them cried that Brahma should be eaten and the others cried that he should not be protected. The ones who said that he should be eaten were called Yakshas, and the ones who said that he should not be protected became Rakshasas, man-eaters. The two, Yakshas and Rakshasas, are the original creation by Brahma, and are represented even until today in the uncivilized men who are scattered all over the universe. They are born of the mode of ignorance, and therefore, because of their behavior, they are called Rakshasas, or man-eaters. Text 22, he then created the chief demigods who were shining with the glory of goodness. He dropped before them the effulgent form of daytime, and the demigods sportingly took possession of it. Demons were born from the creation of night, and the demigods were born from the creation of day. In other words, demons, like the Yakshas and Rakshasas, are born of the quality of ignorance, and demigods are born of the quality of goodness. Lord Brahma then gave birth to the demons from his buttocks, and they were very fond of sex. Because they were too lustful, they approached him for copulation. Sex life is the background of material existence. Here also it is repeated that demons are very fond of sex life. The more one is free from the desires for sex, the more he is promoted to the level of the demigods. The more one is inclined to enjoy sex, the more he is degraded to the level of demoniac life. The worshipful Brahma first laughed at their stupidity, but finding the shameless asuras close upon him, he grew indignant and ran in great haste out of fear. Purport: sexually inclined demons have no respect even for their father, and the best policy for a saintly father like Brahma is to leave such demoniac sons. He approached the personality of Godhead who bestows all boons and who dispels the agony of his devotees and of those who take shelter of his lotus feet. He manifests his innumerable transcendental forms for the satisfaction of his devotees. Here the words Bhaktanam Anurupatma-darshanam mean that the personality of Godhead manifests his multi-forms according to the desires of the devotees. For example, Hanumanji, Vrajrangaji, wanted to see the form of the Lord as the personality of Godhead Ramachandra, whereas other Vaishnavas want to see the form of Radha and Krishna. And still others want to see the Lord in the form of Lakshmi Narayan. The Mayavadi philosophers think that although all these forms are assumed by the Lord, just as the devotees desire to see him, actually he is impersonal. From Brahma Samhita it is said, however, we can understand that this is not so, for the Lord has multi-forms. It is said in the Brahma Samhita, Advaitam Achyutam, the Lord does not appear before the devotee because of the devotee's imagination. Brahma Samhita further explains that the Lord has innumerable forms, Ramadi Murti Shukala Niyamina Tishtan. He exists in millions and millions of forms. There are 8,400,000 species of living entities, but the incarnations of the Supreme Lord are innumerable. In the Bhagavatam it is stated that as the waves of the sea cannot be counted but appear and disappear continually, the incarnations and forms of the Lord are innumerable. A devotee is attached to a particular form, and it is said, and it is that form which he worships. We have just described the first appearance of the boar within this universe. There are innumerable universes, and somewhere or other the boar form is now existing. All the forms of the Lord are eternal. It is the devotee's inclination to worship a particular form, and he engages in devotional service to that form. In a verse in the Ramayana, Hanuman, the great devotee of Ram, said, I know there is no difference between the Sita, Ram, and Lakshmi Narayan forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but nevertheless, the form of Ram and Sita has absorbed my affection and love. Therefore, I want to see the Lord in the forms of Rama and Sita. Similarly, the Gaudiya Vaishnava loves the forms of Radha and Krishna and Rukmini at Dwarka. The words Bhaktanam Anurupatma-darśanaḥ mean that the Lord is always pleased to favor the devotee in the particular form in which the devotee wants to worship and render service unto him. In this verse it is stated that Brahma approached Hṛdi, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This form of the Lord is Shirdakshay Vishnu. Whenever there is some trouble and Brahma has to approach the Lord, he can approach Shirdakshay Vishnu, and it is the grace of the Lord that whenever Brahma approaches about disturbances in the universe, the Lord gives him relief in so many ways. Lord Brahma, approaching the Lord, addressed him thus, My Lord, please protect me from these sinful demons, who were created by me under your order. They are infuriated by an appetite for sex and have come to attack me. It appears here that the homosexual appetite of males for one another is created in this episode of the creation of the demons by Brahma. In other words, the homosexual appetite of a man for another man is demoniac, and it is not for any sane male in the ordinary course of life. 27. My Lord, you are the only one capable of ending the affliction of the distressed and inflicting agony on those who never resort to your feet. Purport: the words Kleshadas Tesham Anasanapadam Tava indicate that the Lord has two concerns. The first is to give protection to persons who take shelter of his lotus feet, and the second is to give trouble to those who are always demoniac and who are inimical toward the Lord. Maya's function is to give afflictions to the non-devotees. Here Brahma said, you are the protector of the surrendered souls. Therefore, I surrender at your lotus feet. Please give me protection from these demons. The Lord, who can distinctly see the minds of others, perceived Brahma's distress and said to him, cast off this impure body of yours. Thus commanded by the Lord, Brahma cast off his body. The Lord is described here by the word viviktādhyātma-darśanaḥ. If anyone can completely perceive another's distress without doubt, If anyone can completely perceive another's distress without doubt, it is the Lord himself. If someone is in distress and wants to get relief from his friend, Sometimes it so happens that his friend does not appreciate the volume of distress he is suffering. But for the Supreme Lord it is not difficult. The Supreme Lord as Paramātmā is sitting within the heart of every living entity, and he directly perceives the exact causes of distress. In Bhagavad-gītā the Lord says, sarvasya cāhaṁ hṛdi sanniviṣṭaḥ. I'm sitting in everyone's heart, and because of me, one's remembrance and forgetfulness occur. Thus, whenever one fully surrenders unto the Supreme Lord, one finds that he is sitting within one's heart. He can give us direction how to get out of dangers or how to approach him in devotional service. The Lord, however, asked Brahma to give up his present body because it had created the demoniac principle. According to Sridhar Swami, Brahma's constant dropping of his body does not refer to his actual giving up his body, Rather, he suggests that Brahma gave up a particular mentality. Mind is the subtle body of the living entity. We may sometimes be absorbed in some thought which is sinful, but if we give up the sinful thought, it may be said that we gave up the body. Brahma's mind was not in correct order when he created the demons. It must have been full of passion because the entire creation was passionate. Therefore, such passionate sons were born. It follows that any father and mother should also be careful while begetting children. The mental condition of a child depends on the mental status of his parents at the time he is conceived. According to the Vedic system, therefore, the garbhadhana samskara, or the ceremony for giving birth to a child, is observed. Before begetting a child, one has to sanctify his perplexed mind. When the parents engage their minds in the lotus feet of the Lord, and in such a state the child is born. Naturally, good devotee children come. When the society is full of such good population, there is no trouble from demoniac mentalities. The body given up by Brahma took the form of the evening twilight, when the day and night meet, a time which kindles passion. The asuras, who are passionate by nature, dominated as they are by the element of rajas, took it for a damsel whose lotus feet resounded with the tinkling of anklets, whose eyes were wide with intoxication, and whose hips were covered by fine cloth, over which shone a girdle. Purport: as early morning is the period for spiritual cultivation, the beginning of evening is the period for passion. Demoniac men are generally very fond of sex enjoyment, therefore they very much appreciate the approach of evening. The demons took the approach of the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman, and they began to adore her in various ways. They imagined the twilight to be a very beautiful woman with tinkling bangles on her feet, a girdle on her hips, and beautiful breasts. And for their sexual satisfaction, they imagined the appearance of this beautiful girl before them. Her breasts projected upwards because of their clinging to each other, and they were too contiguous to admit any intervening space. She had a shapely nose and beautiful teeth. A lovely smile played on her lips, and she cast a sportful glance at the asuras. Adorned with dark tresses, she hid herself, as it were, out of shyness. Upon seeing that girl, the asuras were all infatuated with an appetite for sex. Purport: the difference between demons and demigods is that a beautiful woman very easily attracts the minds of demons, but she cannot attract the mind of a godly person. A godly person is full of knowledge, and a demoniac person is full of ignorance. Just as a child is attracted by a beautiful doll, similarly a demon who is less intelligent and full of ignorance is attracted by material beauty and an appetite for sex. The godly person knows that this nicely dressed and ornamented attraction of high breasts, high hips, beautiful nose, and fair complexion is Maya. All the beauty a woman can display is only a combination of flesh and blood. Sri Shankaracharya has advised all persons not to be attracted by the interaction of flesh and blood. They should be attracted by the real beauty in spiritual life. The real beauty is Krishna and Radha. One who is attracted by the beauty of Radha and Krishna cannot be attracted by the false beauty of this material world. That is the difference between a demon and a godly person or devotee. The demons praised her. Oh, what a beauty! What rare self-control! What a budding youth! In the midst of us all, who are passionately longing for her, she is moving about like one absolutely free from passion, indulging in various speculations about the evening twilight, which appeared to them endowed with the form of a young woman. The wicked-minded asuras treated her with respect and fondly spoke to her as follows. Who are you, O pretty girl? Whose wife or daughter are you, and what can be the object of your appearing before us? Why do you tantalize us, unfortunate as we are, with the priceless commodity of your beauty? The mentality of demons is being enamored. The mentality of the demons in being enamored by the false beauty of this material world is expressed herein. The demoniac can pay any price for the skin beauty of this material world. They work very hard all day and night, but the purpose of their hard work is to enjoy sex life. Sometimes they misrepresent themselves as karma yogis, not knowing the meaning of the word yoga. Yoga means to link up with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or to act in Krishna consciousness. A person who works very hard, no matter in what occupation, and who offers the result of the work to the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is called karma yogi. Whosoever you may be, O beautiful girl, we are fortunate in being able to see you. While playing with the ball, you have agitated the minds of all onlookers. Purport: demons arrange many kinds of performances to see the glaring beauty of a beautiful woman. Here it is stated that they saw the girl playing with the ball. Sometimes the demoniac arranges for so-called sports like tennis with the opposite sex. The purpose of such sporting is to see the bodily construction of the beautiful girl and enjoy a subtle sex mentality. This demoniac sex mentality of material enjoyment is sometimes encouraged by so-called yogis who encourage the public to enjoy sex life in different varieties, and at the same time advertise that if one meditates on a certain manufactured mantra, one can become God within 6 months. The public wants to be cheated, and Krishna therefore creates such cheaters to misrepresent and delude. These so-called yogis are actually enjoyers of the world garbed as yogis. Bhagavad-gītā, however, recommends that if one wants to enjoy life, then it cannot be with these gross senses. A patient is advised by the experienced physician to refrain from ordinary enjoyment while in the diseased condition. A diseased person cannot enjoy anything. He has to restrain his enjoyment in order to get rid of the disease. Similarly, our material condition is a diseased condition. If one wants to enjoy real sense enjoyment, then one must get free of the entanglement of material existence. In spiritual life, we can enjoy sense enjoyment, which has no end. The difference between material and spiritual enjoyment is that material enjoyment is limited. Even if a man engages in material sex enjoyment, he cannot enjoy it for long. But when the sex enjoyment is given up, then one can enter spiritual life, which is unending. In Bhagavad-gītā 5.5.1, in Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.1, it is stated that Brahma Saukya, spiritual happiness, is ananta, unending. Foolish creatures are enamored by the beauty of matter and think that the enjoyment it offers is real, but actually, that is not real enjoyment. O beautiful woman, when you strike the bouncing ball against the ground with your hand again and again, your lotus feet do not stay in one place. Oppressed by the weight of your full-grown breast, your waist becomes fatigued and your clear vision grows dull, as it were. Pray, braid your comely hair. Purport: the demons observe beautiful gestures in the woman's every step. Here they praise her full-grown breasts, her scattered hair, and her movements in stepping forward and backward while playing with the ball. In every step they enjoy her womanly beauty, and while they enjoy her beauty, their minds become agitated by sex desire. As moths at night surround a fire and are killed, so the demons become victims of the movements of the ball-like breasts of a beautiful woman. The scattered hair of a beautiful woman also afflicts the heart of a lusty demon. The Asuras, clouded in their understanding, took the evening twilight to be a beautiful woman, showing herself in the alluring form, and they seized her. The Asuras are described here as mudha-dhiya, meaning that they are captivated by ignorance, just like the ass. The demons were captivated by the false, glaring beauty of this material form, and thus they embraced her. Okay, let's see if we have reflections or questions. Bhana, Prabhu.
I was just thinking of this, of the demons who created just from their own imagination that the twilight was the form of a beautiful woman. And it reminds me how careful we need to be while in this material world, since to a lesser or greater extent we're all enamored by it, unless we have full engagement for the mind, specifically by doing what we're doing, constantly hearing, chanting, the imagination can start to create ideas of enjoyment. It reminds me also when we were just joined the movement, we were new devotees, we were going out on book distribution, how since we've just come from Maya, we were so aware of how fallen we really were, and what kind of a dangerous situation is going back out and approaching materialistic persons. I remember it developed this intensity that in between people, we were like, chanting Hare Krishna, if not out loud, at least into our minds. Some devotees always had a Bhagavatam with them. And in between people, even they would open it up and be reading, even walking towards the next person, they would, and by that constant engagement like that, we were always protected.
Thank you for such important warnings and advice. Prabhupada Priya.
Hare Krishna. I'm just wondering how you would explain this text 26 purport to our LGBTQ community.
I would say that the descriptions of what is good, bad, are categorical. And that is the misconception that we're our bodies, and an investment in any kind of material endeavor as being valuable is categorically considered by Bhagavad-gītā, Srimad Bhagavatam, etc., by all acharyas, to be folly and to be illusory. And its various manifestations in the material world, as Prabhupada said, whether licit or illicit, are just gradations of that. But they're all on that side of the categorical madness of accepting the material, whatever it may be, to be valuable. So it's following the theme of reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Samyaprash.
On the same basic point, in trying to help present Bhagavad philosophy, would you say it's appropriate? Because we see, like, for example, after Prabhupada comments on homosexuality, there's this whole pastime where the demons are enamored with the female form, and presumably that's a heterosexual attraction, but they're just completely absorbed by illicit sexual attraction. So, would you say it's correct to understand that regardless of one's, orientation or how they're maybe attracted to whatever bodies, it's appropriate for this, it's suitable for them or helpful for their growth as a soul to become regulated in their sexual relationships? So, in other words, like, what I found is helpful is presenting that, as you said, categorically, we're not here to try to gratify the illusion of the body, and therefore to that end, the regulative principles exist as a means to kind of create some structure for ourselves so that we can actually transcend through our actually dedicated bhakti practice the entire illusion to begin with. I guess what I'm asking is, has this come up, to talk about, well, okay, because we know, for example, Srila Prabhupada spoke to some of his disciples, okay, whether you're homosexual, heterosexual, whatever, pick a partner and be monogamous and just pick a nice person and practice Krishna consciousness. Is this part of our, your presentation, or our am I understanding correctly? This is a right way of discussing, libido and sexuality in the context of transcendence and bhakti?
Yeah, regulation is key, and it's a personal situation that has to be dealt with individually in order to help them. And therefore, there should be very thoughtful, customized help for people who are in any particular situation in order to help them advance. And at the same time, there should be a clear idea of what standards are paramount, so that people can aspire to those. Devrata.
I have a question. I've experienced in my own effort to spread Krishna consciousness, I've had circumstances with boys who look like boys, behave like boys, reveal at a certain stage of their they were born as girls and began making a transition at the age of 11 or 12. And the question which comes up is, the question which came up in such circumstances is, the person has an aspiration for ashram life, which generally means living in the association of the same sex. And how do you facilitate such a person? Because sometimes it could be risky for them, it could be risky for other people, and just the world is so convoluted many times. How do we create shelter for such a circumstance? I mean, what I got from this, which I've never got from it before, is due to lack of garbhodana samskar, it's just so many things are arising in the subtle bodies of people who are being born. It's all categorically different from who they are, but it's just the byproduct of the time. How do we facilitate such circumstance, such people, and if they're looking for a more intimate atmosphere of association? Does there need to be a separate facility, or what does it take?
Could be, but my answer is that individually, because everyone's person has a unique situation, and we can factory farm and say it's like this or like that, but when it comes down to it, every person needs some special guidance and facility, and there are always some workaround that can make people can allow people to have a niche. It's not always so easy. I was involved more with prison stuff, prison ministry. I have one disciple who's in prison for life, no possibility of parole, and other people started writing me. I did write back and forth to a lot of people. There were some people committed heinous crimes who then became devotees in jail. I'm just giving you another conundrum to work on. I mean, kind of crimes where you go, oh my God. And then, it comes to, I'm getting out. One preface, a little late for a preface, but those who were experienced in the prison ministry told me, yeah, your guy in there that has no possibility of parole, he has the best chance of anybody, because there's been a 0% success rate of people became devotees in jail and then got out. In any case, one person was very sincere in writing for a while about, I'm getting out in a certain amount of time, which temple can I come live in? And there wasn't really a place. We'd have to scale it and have a place where it turned out that he didn't make it through the transition when he got out. He stopped writing and he lost our number. So, but it made me think about it a lot, like call up somebody, oh, do you want a guy who killed his family to move in the ashram? And it gave me something to think about, to accommodate people from all different backgrounds and so forth. You really do have to think about customization and workarounds and so forth. And I do admire the devotees who make such accommodations for people, starting with anybody. Everybody needs some circumstance where they can find regulation and they can start to realize the bliss of actually pursuing spiritual life seriously. And they can rise above their conditioning. But it requires a lot of thought. So yes, I agree. I'm saying yes to, we should think about it and see how one can make facility for people to take advantage of the process. I remember in Chicago, in 1975, were you there? In 75, Prabhupada came there, and there was a big thing in the paper, crime, wine, what to do. That was on the headline when Prabhupada landed. And Prabhupada really seized on that. He said, okay, we know what to do. We have to make a place. He met with the mayor, Lieutenant Mosley, and he said, you should give some government resources, give us a building. We'll take all these people who are used to living a criminal life and we'll reform them. So that was Prabhupada's vision, that get some facility, give them an opportunity to reform themselves. So that's something spiritually entrepreneurial somebody can work on and see how that can be done. So yes and yes. Anything else? Bana?
I'm just seeing how this event, Krishna telling Brahma, when these demons were trying to chase him down to eat him, he said, give up this body. And it's mentioned that he gave up that thought, or somehow or other. And so I was thinking how do you give up a thought? But it's actually not that difficult. The thing that binds us to this material world more than anything is because when we do something, there's so many attitudes attached around that thing. But if we actually, for anything, take shelter of Krishna and pray intensely, Krishna will always give us a solution. and we can give us the ability. We actually become free from that thought.
Yeah, it's an important section and a nice point, Bhana. Thank you. I would say also that it's interesting that it was Krishna told him to give up the body, right? Who was it? Krishna? Because it indicated in that section that he was also at fault. There's some impurities, and it's time for a do-over, because there's your creation is coming out a little half-baked here. Better get your scene together, Brahma. Start over. Get straight. It's an important point you're making, Bhana, about whatever we see manifest in our life, better to come back and see what's creating that, what's our mindset, and to amend it, to adjust it. Radha Kripa. Here we go.
Krishna Maharaj. Maharaj, I'm feeling really a lot of gratitude for Prabhupada for creating this organization where, right now in the corporate world, people are all talking about all-inclusive leadership, all-inclusive, setup in a corporate world, so that every people from all race, society, with any background is heard and properly, represented. But here at ISKCON, I'm feeling really blessed to be part of the association, as you are highlighting, to find a way we can accommodate each and every one above the worldlies, whatever features they carried. It's very fulfilling. This Prabhupada did it like 70 years ago, and right now the corporate world is trying to even just touch that part. So really feeling blessed to be part of the organization.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up. Thanks for the point. I had a point earlier withheld for a while, and I just remember it, which was I was appreciating Krishna's management style. He gave so much autonomy to Brahma. He gave so much empowerment, first of all, that he's almost equal to him in power. And then he gave him so much leeway to create. He met him, he talked to him, gave him the instructions, and then he was like, go for it. Shook hands. It was very personal, and he said, you can do this. And that's an interesting management style, isn't it? Prabhupada had that. He would empower people and have them expanding on concept. Please pass the microphone.
Even though he made that mistake, like something came out, as you said, half-baked, still Krishna didn't fire Brahma or remove him from his post, but he just kind of adjusted the circumstance and said, okay, continue on with your service.
Yeah. And considering also that there's been a couple of references to the ways in which Krishna has made a variegated creation to facilitate free will. So people have free will. If they want to degrade themselves, then he gives them all facility to go as into as deep degradation as he'll make it available for the desire of somebody who wants to do that. So even that seems random or like Brahma's making a mistake, there's also what was mentioned earlier is the will of the living entities. They have destiny already there, pushing forward towards their natures and what they've done before. And Prabhupada said, remember he said in that last sentence, something in karma, their capacity, and also karma. Would you like to hear one more verse? Where are we? Oh, what? We got one online. Okay.
This is from Lakshmi Narasimha Das. So I think this is more like his contribution towards the discussion, how we include the LGBTQ and others. So he's saying, isn't it true that in yoga there is the goal creating a sattvic mind and from there proceed to transcendence? Shrinvatam Swakatha Krishna verse. In these customized situations, help them cultivate a lifestyle that will help them develop a sattvic mind, including in that lifestyle various practices that will help them in their progression.
Yeah, that would be very helpful. But especially the direction is yena tena prakarena manak krishna dveshayat. First, help people to remember Krishna, then you can adjust the various rules and regulations after that. Because that's the first order of business, is that they remember Krishna. So I appreciate what Lakshmi Nrsimha Prabhu said. I would just say, instead of sattvic mind first, although that, it's a valid point, but remembering Krishna is the first order of business. Okay, where did we end? 38. We're on 38? Huh? We're on what? I'm still confused. I don't have a clear direction. 38. Thank you. With a laugh full of deep significance, the worshipful Brahma then evolved by his own loveliness, which seemed to enjoy itself by itself, the host of Gandharvas and Apsaras. Purport: the musicians in the upper planetary systems are called Gandharvas, and the dancing girls are called Apsaras. After being attacked by the demons and evolving a form of a beautiful woman in the twilight, Brahma next created Gandharvas and Apsaras. Music and dancing employed in sense gratification are to be accepted as demoniac, but the same music and dancing, when employed in glorifying the Supreme Lord as kirtan, are transcendental, and they bring about a life completely fit for spiritual enjoyment. After that, what happened to Mahendra? He took sannyas. He ran off with a group of sannyasis. Huh? He what? Oh, there he is. After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved. Yay! I couldn't feel the normal Ananda. After that, Brahma gave up that shining and beloved form of moonlight, Vishvavasu, and other Gandharvas gladly took possession of it. The glorious Brahma next evolved from his sloth, the ghosts and fiends, perfect for Halloween. But he closed his eyes when he saw them stand naked with their hair scattered. Ghosts and mischievous hobgoblins are also the creation of Brahma. They are not false. All of them are meant for putting the conditioned soul into various miseries. They are understood to be the creation of Brahma under the direction of the Supreme Lord. The ghosts and hobgoblins took possession of the body thrown off in the form of yawning by Brahma, the creator of the living entities. This is also known as the sleep which causes drooling. The hobgoblins and ghosts attack men who are impure, and their attack is spoken of as insanity. The disease of insanity of being haunted by ghosts takes place in an unclean state of existence. Here it is clearly stated that when a man is fast asleep and saliva flows from his mouth and he remains unclean, ghosts then take advantage of his unclean state and haunt his body. In other words, those who drool while sleeping are considered unclean and are subject to be haunted by ghosts or to go insane. I won't end on that. I'll go to the next one. Recognizing himself to be full of desire and energy, the worshipful Brahma, the creator of the living entities, evolved from his own invisible form, from his navel, the hosts of sadhyas and pitas. The sadhyas and pitas are invisible forms of departed souls, and they are also created by Brahma. So, Karuna Sagar. We're ending on 40. Start up at 43. You got it? Okay. Dear Srila Prabhupada, dear Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Shri Shri Panchatattva, Shri Shri Radha Madan Mohan, Shri Shri Radha Govinda, Shri Shri Radha Gopinath 18 Thakur. If you so desire, please engage us in your service. Thank you for considering our request. Om Tat Sat. Everyone agrees with this prayer in whole or in part. Please unmute and say Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Gaur Premanande. Nitai Gaura Haribo. 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo. Nitai Gaura Haribo. 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo.